There are gods who rule the sky, the sea, and the underworld. They command storms, shape the earth, and decide the fate of mortals. But there are also gods who do not rule kingdoms. Gods who do not sit on thrones or demand worship. Instead, they exist in something far more dangerous. Not in the world around us, but within it. Eris was one of those gods. She was not the strongest among the Olympians. She did not carry weapons like ours or command lightning like Zeus. And yet, her power was something even the greatest gods could not fully control. Because Eris did not fight wars, she created them. She was the goddess of strife, discord, and conflict. Not the battle itself, but the reason it began. The moment when peace breaks. The instant when trust turns into suspicion. When allies become enemies. That was where Eris existed. Unlike other gods, she was not welcome on Olympus. The Olympians valued order, control, and balance, even if they often broke those rules themselves. But Eris represented something different. She did not maintain balance. She destroyed it. Wherever she went, tension followed. Arguments began without reason. Small disagreements grew into something far more dangerous. Once conflict started, it rarely ended quickly. Because of this, she was often excluded, ignored, pushed away from the gatherings of the gods. But Eris did not need an invitation. One day, she decided to remind them why. There was a wedding on Olympus. A grand celebration, bringing together gods, goddesses, and powerful beings from across the world. Everyone was invited, everyone, except her. For most, this would have been an insult. For Eris, it was an opportunity. She arrived uninvited, not with weapons or threats, but with something much more subtle. A single object, a golden apple. On it were written simple words. For the fairest, it seemed harmless, but it wasn't, because in a world of gods, beauty was not just appearance. It was power, status, identity, and with those two words, Eris did something no army could do. She made the gods turn against each other. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite each claimed the apple. Each believed they deserved it. What began as a question quickly became a dispute. A dispute became an argument, and an argument became something far worse. The gods could not decide God, and so they turned to the mortal, Eris of Troy. And in that moment, Eris had already won, because she never needed to fight. All she had to do was start the conflict. What made Eris truly dangerous was not the chaos she created, but how easily it spread. She did not need armies, power, or force. Once conflict began, it grew on its own. And that was exactly what happened after the golden apple. Eris, a mortal prince, was given a choice no human should ever face. Before him stood three goddesses, each powerful, each proud, each certain that they deserved to be chosen. But this was never a fair decision. It was a trap, not for Eris alone, but for everyone who would be affected by what came next. Hera offered him power. Athena offered him wisdom and victory in war. But Aphrodite offered something different. She promised him the most beautiful woman in the world. Eris chose Aphrodite, and in doing so, he made enemies of the others. This was the moment where everything began to fall apart. Not instantly, not with a single strike, but slowly, quietly, exactly the way Eris intended. Because the most dangerous conflicts are not the ones that explode immediately. They are the ones that grow beneath the surface, unnoticed until it is too late. The woman promised to Eris was Helen, but Helen was not free. She was already married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta. Taking her was not just an act of desire, it was an act of betrayal. And betrayal is one of the strongest triggers of war. Eris did not see it that way. To him, it was love, destiny, something meant to happen. But the world does not run on personal desires. It runs on consequences. When Helen was taken to Troy, the reaction was inevitable. Menelaus did not see romance or fate. He saw theft, dishonor, a direct challenge to his power and his name. And in a world where reputation meant everything, this could not go unanswered. War was coming. But what made this moment so dark was not the war itself. It was how easily it all began. A single decision, a single promise, a single act, and suddenly, entire kingdoms were preparing for destruction. This is where Eris truly existed, not in the battlefield, but in the chain of events that led to it. In the misunderstandings, the emotions, the pride, the choices that seemed small at the time, but carried enormous consequences. She did not need to control people. She only needed to push them slightly in the right direction, and they would do the rest. That is what made her different from gods like ours. Ours thrived in the chaos of war. Eris created the conditions for it to exist. She was the beginning, not the middle or the end, and once things began to move, even the gods could not fully stop it, because pride, desire, and anger are not forces that can be easily controlled, not by mortals, and not even by gods. They grow, they spread, and eventually, they consume everything. The armies of Greece began to gather, ships were prepared, alliances were formed, and across the sea, Troy stood, unaware of how quickly everything would change. But Eris knew, she did not need to watch closely. She did not need to interfere anymore. The conflict was already alive. It was growing, expanding, becoming something far greater than a simple argument between gods. It was becoming war, and this was only the beginning. The war did not begin in a single moment. It arrived slowly, like a storm forming far beyond the horizon. At first, it was only preparation. Kings gathering armies, ships being built, oaths remembered and called upon. But once it began, there was no turning back. The Greeks crossed the sea with a single goal: to bring Helen back, to restore honor. But beneath those reasons lay something deeper: pride, anger, the need to prove strength. And once these forces were set in motion, they could not be undone. The Trojan War lasted for years, cities burned, heroes rose and fell. Names that would become legends were written in blood and memory. Warriors fought not only for victory, but for reputation, for legacy, for something that would outlive them. And through it all, the gods watched and interfered. Some took sides. Some tried to control the outcome. But none of them could erase what had already begun. Because this war was never just about Helen. It was about everything that led to that moment, every choice, every emotion, every small conflict that grew into something unstoppable. This was the true power of Eris. She did not stand on the battlefield. She did not lead armies or strike down warriors. And yet, she was present in every moment of the war, in every argument between leaders, in every act of revenge, in every decision driven by pride. Instead of reason, she was there when alliances broke, when trust disappeared, when anger replaced logic, and that is why her power was so terrifying, because it did not end when the war began. It continued. Throughout it, year after year, the conflict dragged on, neither side willing to give up, neither side able to truly win, because by that point, it was no longer about the original cause. It had become something else, something larger, war for the sake of war, and eventually, it reached its end, not through strength alone, but through deception, the Trojan horse. A final act that brought the city of Troy down from within. The gates opened, the soldiers entered, and the city fell. But even in that moment of victory, there was no true peace, because what was destroyed could not be restored. Lives were lost, kingdoms broken, and the world that remained was not the same as before. This is what Eris leaves behind, not just chaos in the moment, but consequences that last far beyond it, and perhaps that is what makes her one of the most dangerous forces in all of mythology. She does not need power in the way other gods do. She does not need to fight. All she needs is a beginning, because once conflict starts, it no longer belongs to her. It belongs to everyone.